In this video, I'm just going to go over some of the very basic elements of Java, and I'm going to cover these in several small videos. This first one, it's going to include how to use the Eclipse IDE and how to create your first program, which you saw. It's going to be a little bit of a repeat as for the Hello World program. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit more about everything that you're seeing in the Hello World program, what it means. So we'll talk about the methods and the special symbols and identifiers in this particular video, and anything else that may come up. So I already have Eclipse open down here, but if you're on an Apple machine like I am, and this is an Apple machine, but I do have a Windows operating system running right now. So I just go here and I search for Eclipse, and it comes up and it opens. But I have it open already. So when you open Eclipse, if you see something like this where your workspace is completely blank, you can click here on the left-hand side, and it will show you the things that you've been working on. Okay, and so I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go to File, New, Java Project. We're going to give it a name. Simple project, and leave everything as is checked off here, and then instead of next we're going to click finish. Now when you click finish, if you get this window, go ahead and just delete the module name. We don't want to create a module, so we're just going to click on don't create, and then you should get a blank window like this one. And then, so this one is called, this one right here, Simple Project. And I'm going to right click on it, click New, and I'm going to add a class. And we can call this class whatever we want, and I'll just go ahead and call it first class. It's going to be a public class. We'll talk about what that means later as we get into talking about object-oriented programming and talking about classes. Here you can check off public static void main. If you forget to check it off, it's okay. I'll show you what happens. We'll just check it off, and then I'll talk to you more about this. So let's put a check mark there and click finish. So if you didn't put a check mark there, then you would notice that this main method would not be included, and that's okay. You can just type in that main method. But your program is not going to run unless you have a main method or this class calls some other class that has a main method. So the main method is necessary for you to actually run this program. And so at this point, I think in the last Hello World program that you typed up, you typed some output statements. So you did system.out. There's a print and there's a print line. So print, it's going to print something on a line, but not have a return statement. So if I did print, anything in print in quotation marks is going to be a string inside my print statement. So here I could put hello everyone, close quote. So what you see here in blue, it's going to be it's going to be a string. And then if I had another line, system.out.print, how are you? Then both of these are going to run on the same, or when it runs, they're both going to print on the same line. So if you look over here in the output window, and yours might show up here at the bottom, it says, hello everyone, no space, how are you? Because I have print. But if I add an ln here, no, not there, I'm sorry, ln here, print line, and run, then it gives me a new line, and I get both of those in separate lines. So when you're working with the print statement, you can print things in quotes. Those are going to be just literal strings, and whatever you type, however you type it, that's how it's going to show. It's not a variable. It's not going to be something that you can change. It's just always going to say those words. Something else you can do here is you can do something that's called concatenation, or joining something together, concatenate. And you do that with a plus sign. So the plus sign here is not used to add, but it means to join. So I'm going to join two strings. Like I can say, how are you, plus, if I had a variable, I could put a variable here, or I could just put like, I can do that. I can add a number, and this number would actually be just a constant, a 5. It would be a string when added to this other string. And then run. And there's my exclamation point and the 5. Notice there's not a space between the 5 and the exclamation point. The space would need to be inside here next to the exclamation point. Put some spaces there, and then it would separate it. Okay, so this is just working with strings. Something else we can do is I can put this in parentheses and say 5 plus, 10 plus 5. And make sure that I have, so I need the parentheses, this parentheses here closes this parentheses, and then these two parentheses are for the addition of 10 plus 5. So it just prints, it adds it, and it prints a 15. And if I were to leave the parentheses out, say that I left that one out, notice that you already see that there's an error there. And when I put my cursor on there, it tells me what kind of error it is. So it says insert a parentheses to complete the expression. So very nice. Now notice that I ended everything with a semicolon. If you've taken other languages before that use semicolon to end a statement, this is nothing new to you. But if you do leave that semicolon out, you will get an error. Let's see here if it shows me the error. Insert semicolon to complete the statement. So it's nice enough to tell me what I need. Some compilers do not do that, but this one is very kind. It tells me exactly what I need. So as I do this, I'm looking at your book, and I'm just checking to make sure that I'm going through all the basics. One of the things that it goes over in your book and that I talk about is in your very first lab is adding comments to your programs. want to make sure that all your programs have comments. So this class, you can add a comment, for example, who wrote the program, what date was the program written on, and if you've taken C++, then your comments are going to be just like in C or C++. So we can have comments with, these are inline comments. Or you can have a comment like this, the block, and you type stuff, and then you end. This one did it for me, but it ends with, so you have forward slash asterisk, and then asterisk backslash ends the comment. You don't have to have that there in the middle. Just adds it automatically. But this beginning of the comment, end of the comment. And here's just inline comments. Okay, so then the next thing that we want to look at is reserved words versus identifiers. So a reserved word on here is going to be something like the word public and the word class. So I cannot use those words as a variable or as the name of a method because they're already being used for something. They're reserved and they have a purpose. So if I want to make a variable here, I could make the variable int data type, and int is going to be a whole number without floating points. And let's say that I call it num1. So num1 is what we call an identifier. So this identifies the name of my variable. And in Java, like other languages, you have different rules for creating identifiers. So our rules for the identifiers is that we have to start with a letter. It can be an uppercase letter or it can be a lowercase letter, but typically one of the ways that we write identifiers is that we always start with lowercase letters. So it's just a formatting thing that we do. It's not required by the compiler. Your program will compile, and so we would just follow what just having a lowercase letter, to start with a lowercase letter. So we want to start with a letter. We can have letters, we can have numbers, you can have an underscore, but you can't have anything like an exclamation point or an addition. You can't have symbols. You can't begin with a number, because if you start with a number and the compiler thinks that that number is going to do something, like you're going to multiply it or you're going to display it, it gets very confused. So those are some of the things that, some of the rules, and those are in your book when it's talking about the basics of the elements of Java. It talks about the different rules of the identifiers. So I don't have any spaces. I start with the letter, I have a number, and then now I'm going to have an equal sign, and I'm going to assign a value of 100. And then if I want to display num1, then I can display it here. For example, I can do plus num1, or if I just want to put it in its own line, just do num1 like that. Just delete my parentheses. I can also use num1 in in a, how do you call it, in an equation, like num1 plus 5, okay? So let's just run this. So we have hello everyone plus, there's a space there, and there's our 100 that was assigned to num1. Here's 100, just plain outputting that integer. And then here we have 105. So just showing you some ways that you can, manipulate it, manipulate your identifiers, how you can use your variables. Introduce you to a few things. So some of the symbols that we use in this language, along with many others, is we have plus and minus. We have the asterisk for multiplication, so this would multiply 100 times 5. We have the / for division, so 100 times 5 is 500. 100 divided by 5 is 20. Some of the other special symbols that we've already used is we have the semicolon, and we have the question mark, which we haven't used it yet, and we'll use that in conditionals for conditions. We have less than, greater than, and then if you want to do less than or equal to, you have less than or equal to, less than or equal to, then greater than or equal to. And then not equal, just like in C++, you have an exclamation point and an equal sign. So this is not equal to. Okay. Any questions? So far, we'll just delete this. And then as far as data types, we'll go over all the different data types as we look at different programs. For right now, I'm just going to show you the integer. You can read in your book about all the different data types. Yeah, no need to go over all of those right now. All the data types have different values, like it has a range of values that it can store. So for example, the integer can hold 4 bytes of information, 4 bytes, and it can hold the number, I'm looking here, it can hold the number, a pretty big number from negative, -2 to the 31st power, all the way to +2 to the 31st power -1. So, but typically we'll just use it for, 100, 1,000, a million, that kind of thing. Also, of course, data types, notice they're in purple, so those are reserved words. And the data types, everything is, all the reserved words are case sensitive. So you cannot type capital I, because it's no longer a reserved word. It doesn't mean the data type integer. So it is case sensitive. Okay, so for this particular class that we made here, the first class, I'm just going to put that it was created. I created the program. Oops. And here I'll put both of my last names. And then the date that it was created. So whatever the date is, June 4th. and then whatever year. And then I can put a little explanation about, typically you'll have a description of what the program is or what this class is going to do. So maybe I'll call it example 1 program or something. Okay, and you would just write a description of what this program is going to do. So make sure you have that on all your programs. And the next thing I want to cover is just order of operation, which is just going to be exactly the same for all other languages. If you've taken other classes, this requires 1436, and I'm pretty sure that it was probably taught using C++. And so if you look at the order of operations, it's just going to be the same as we would do for math. So we would have first, it would be parentheses, would be the first thing that would be executed. And then, so let's say here I have parentheses. And then if you have multiplication or division in your plus 100 times 3. So here, multiplication, since it's not a parentheses, multiplication would happen first, then addition, subtraction. So I skipped one. So we have parentheses, then we have exponents, then we have division, multiplication, whatever order it comes in, those have the same precedence. Then you have addition and subtraction. We also have something called a modulus, and modulus has the same priority as your multiplication and division, and modulus is a percent sign. And what modulus does is, I'll give you an example of modulus here. So modulus will give you, like if I take two numbers and I divide those two numbers, modulus gives me the remainder only of the calculations. And so here, okay, so divided by 5 is 20, because it's 100 divided by 5. I think this might work, it might not, let's try it. Oh wait, modulus is just going to be 0. Okay, so there is no remainder, so the modulus is 0, but let's divide it by 3. And so the remainder would be 1. So 100 divided by 3 is 3 times 33 is 99 with a remainder of 1. So if you want the remainder, you use the percent sign, which is modulus. So make sure you go through and you study all the different data types and the order of operation. And then we have something called a class string. And the class, so string is not a data type, but it's actually a class that's created by, or it's defined already in the compiler. And I'll go over that next in the next video. I'll stop this video for now because I think it's probably long enough.